Hello.
Take it away, Chris.
Just want to say welcome back to another session of Tabnine Office Hours. Have something slightly different here we're going to be delivering to you guys today, and we're excited to do so. It's going to be a lesson on RAG, a deep dive on RAG. So I'm Chris Good, I'm product marketing here at Tabnine, and I'll let Amaya introduce himself as well.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome to everyone that's joining us for the first time today. And my name is Amaya Deshmukh. I'm head of marketing programs at Tabnine. Now, if you'll excuse me for 1 second, I am just about to share my slides and we'll get started here.
Feel free to drop us a hello in chat, introduce yourself. You can let us know where you're calling in from. And as always, this is an interactive session, right? So if you have questions, comments, anything you want to see, let us know and post it in the comments.
And hello to you as well, Alan. Make an effective use of that LinkedIn chat there. So wherever you're joining us from today, whether that's LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, or our StreamYard stream, just know you can make use of the comment functionality and we'll be able to throw your comments and questions up on screen, call you out by name if desired. If I know who you are already and I know you want to be private, I won't do that, but you know. All right, here we go. So AI is here, right? And it's seeing increased adoption. So Gartner's forecasting that by 2028, 75% of enterprise software engineers are going to be using AI code assistants. And that's up from less than 10% in early 2023. But I share this slide every single week. This is one you've probably already seen before if you've been with me, but hey, we all know this, right? AI is fundamentally changing software development. Today, you can use Tabnine as an experienced pair programmer. You can ask it questions like, where in our code base do we do this? For example, check this code for security and performance issues, which Chris and I actually did a really cool demo of that yesterday where we used Tabnine to find and fix all sorts of complicated security vulnerabilities. And of course, you can delegate various tasks to AI across your SDLC. Now, specifically with Tabnine, we've seen our customers report a 30 to 50% increase in productivity across the full set of tasks that constitute the SDLC from using us. However, AI is rapidly becoming more and more autonomous. So if you think about where we've been as an industry, AI really started out when we invented the category in 2018, launching the first AI code completion model ever for Java IDE. From there, an AI code assistant really was defined by that code completions functionality and an IDE chat. And today we're rapidly moving into the agentic era of AI for software development. And where we're really focused on today at Tabnine is continuing to build out our human in the loop, highly contextually aware AI agents that developers can trust and engineering managers can fully govern and control. But more on that later and why that's important. Now, what you may have heard a lot of folks in the industry start talking about is the AI engineer. Specifically, I've been saying this every week for the last month or so now, so this may be out of date at this point, but you may have seen the video from Zuckerberg on the Rogan podcast stating that the AI engineer is already here in 2025. I don't believe that's true for the enterprise. We don't believe that's true for the enterprise. And we don't think it's happening tomorrow. We don't think the AI engineer or anything like it is happening this year. And if you go and ask AI experts and industry veterans on when they actually think anything like this will happen, the estimates range from as near as 5 years away to multiple decades. So the truth is, if anyone tells you that they can accurately predict when an AI engineer is going to emerge, if an AI engineer is even something that should emerge, which I don't necessarily think it is, that's something you should take with a grain of salt. So now, given that we're in the agentic era and there are tons of tools out there that are taking massive amounts of automated action on behalf of so-called developers that are using them, I actually don't believe that as many enterprise developers are using these types of tools as most people think, at least in my conversations with them. They seem to have some pretty big questions about whether or not they can trust these tools to execute tasks for them fully autonomously. My hypothesis is many of these fully autonomous agentic tools are actually more so being used by business users in low code, no code scenarios, and they're fantastic for that. But let's talk about this. Do we think agentic AI for software development, fully autonomous agentic AI for software development, different from the human in the loop AI agents we've built, is truly enterprise ready? Well, I don't know if you've seen the study from GitClear from this year on Copilot code quality, but they analyzed 21 million lines of code between January 2020 and December 2024. And the data paints a fairly clear picture that AI adoption is actually increasing technical debt. So, an eightfold increase in the frequency of code blocks with 5+ duplicated lines during 2024. What changed in 2024? More autonomy and more autonomous agentic capability in the industry broadly. Refactoring moved lines dropped by 44% in 2024. The prevalence of duplicate code blocks and commits increased 10x between 2022 and 2024. And now you may think that that has occurred. A good data point to draw on why that occurred is the majority of AI tools out there don't have any AI usage for code validation, and they can't support you during code review. So your engineers are pushing more and more code, but it's not getting thoroughly reviewed, because how could one code reviewer manage all of that all on their own? And developers are swapping refactoring for code cloning. That's increasing long-term maintenance burdens, and increased AI adoption is leading to an expanding of the number of lines requiring indefinite maintenance. Now, what else is interesting is that the raw LLM itself doesn't look like it can optimize code for long-term maintainability, because, of course, it isn't contextually aware of your organization's code bases. And in October 2024, Google's Dora report showed a pretty interesting finding, a rise in defect rate that correlated with the rise in AI adoption. They probably didn't calculate this using linear regression, or I'm not exactly sure how they did this, or if this was just a simple Pearson correlation coefficient, but let's assume for now it's statistically correct and thorough, since it is Google. But what they found was that per every 25% increase in AI adoption, delivery stability seemed to decrease by 7%, and delivery throughput decreased by 1.5%. So it looks like the AI systems that are out there today are actually hitting a bit of a roadblock in terms of their ability to increase your efficiency and productivity, and may in fact be hampering your long-term efficiency and productivity. And looks like they may be slowing down delivery throughput in the short term as well. And with all that happening, developers don't trust the quality of AI generated code. So you go and look at any survey today, and this is what's clear from the get-go. AI adoption is really high. Developers' outlook on the technology is really positive, and they do think that it's in helping increase their productivity, which it is. But the majority of devs actually don't trust the quality of AI generated code. And that is with good reason. So generic AI coding assistants are actually failing to understand organizational context. So again, this is from the GitClear study. The rate of code artifact reuse has shrunk from 25% of changed lines in 2021 to less than 10% in 2024. So when AI isn't aware of existing code artifacts, so think about things like your microservices, functions, components, so on and so forth, it duplicates them, and that can lead to maintenance issues. And God forbid there's a bug in any of the duplicate components that it's put, because now you've got to fix it in multiple places throughout your code base. Furthermore, without contextual awareness, everyone says they have context, by the way, few can do it correctly. But without contextual awareness, AI really struggles to solve enterprise-grade engineering tasks. So I'm not going to attempt pronouncing this man's name, but he identified usability challenges in aligning Copilot's code with real-world tasks. The second one also noted Copilot had inefficiencies in complex environments. And in this particular study by George Mason University, Codium actually struggled significantly with hard problems across all categories. Overall success rate there of 13% for hard problems. And these are the types of problems our customers typically work on with Tabnine Enterprise. Now, technical debt isn't the only issue here. Generic AI coding systems frequently output insecure code. So going all the way back to 2021, 40% of 1,689 programs generated by Copilot were found to have vulnerabilities. The next year, a separate study, Sadiq and Santos, 2022, 73% of 130 code samples they analyzed, also generated by Copilot, had vulnerabilities. 2024, 452 snippets, generated by our favorite GHCP, and 30% of Python and 25% of JavaScript snippets contain 38 different CWEs. And then to here in 2024, examined Copilot, Codium, and Code Whisperer, and they found 773 snippets with a high likelihood of security weaknesses that spanned 43 different common weakness enumerations. Now, across the board, on average, with these tools, the frequency of snippets with a single security vulnerability was 27% on average, and the frequency of snippets containing more than one security weakness was 14%. So the LLM on its alone and without a sufficient context engine in place is really having a negative effect on code quality that's making it hard for engineers to trust that the code is not increasing their technical debt burden and isn't introducing security risks to their applications. But that's not the only problem. If your AI agent and AI coding assistant is just a simple application wrapper on top of an LLM that puts it in your IDE, that code that it produces is going to be prone to hallucination. So going back to 2023, great study from Vulcan Cyber. Congrats to them on their recent acquisition, by the way. But Lanyado from Vulcan Cyber found that 24% of question responses produced hallucinated packages when using GPT-4, and 64% of questions had hallucinated package names when he was using Gemini. Now, Spracklin in 2025 analyzed 576,000 code samples in 2 languages across 16 of the most popular LLMs for code generation. And he found an average of 21% of incidents of package hallucination even then. So it hasn't looked like it's increased significantly in its ability to prevent hallucination of packages over the last 2 years. Now, Tian in 2025 looked at 17 different LLMs again, and they found significant differences in reliability and accuracy. But what was really interesting about this study was they created this benchmark called the Code Halu benchmark. I assume that's code hallucinations. And they looked at about 8,883 samples and 669 tasks, and then categorized hallucinations into 4 types: mapping, naming, resource, and logic, with additional subtypes. I'll be writing an article about that, diving deeper into that particular study. But very, very interesting research happening right now. So now this raises the question, is fine-tuning a appropriate solution for fixing hallucinations? Well, in 2024, December, a fascinating study and paper from the University of Singapore was published called "Hallucination is Inevitable: An Innate Limitation of Large Language Models." Now, I really recommend reading this paper. I actually posted about it from my LinkedIn profile this morning. And what it does is it establishes a fundamental theorem for LLMs. So first, it's important to ground ourselves to understand that LLMs are built to generate plausible responses, not to verify their correctness. And the research concluded that hallucinations are not just a flaw in today's AI models, but an inherent limitation of the technology itself. So no matter how large a model becomes or how much data it's been trained on, hallucinations will persist. The study also identified specific scenarios that induce hallucinations, and I think many of those are common in software development queries. So things like Boolean logic, combinatorial lists, subset sum problems, and propositional logics are particularly susceptible to AI hallucination. And when LLMs attempt to generate responses to these types of problems, they are more likely to fabricate information rather than return a correct answer. And while fine tuning can reduce hallucinations to some extent, it isn't a silver bullet. And here's why. Well, first, LLMs are prediction machines, not truth machines. So they don't know facts the way, say, a database does, or the way your engineers actually do. They just predict the next token based on patterns learned from training data. And this means that they lack real-time verification mechanisms to check if generated code is correct or even exists. If their training data is incomplete or outdated, the model may hallucinate missing pieces to fill in the gaps. And the suggestions that it generates may look syntactically correct, but they can reference non-existent APIs, deprecated functions, or insecure patterns. So an example of this might be that you might be working with a code assistant that generates a suggestion with an API method that looks valid, but actually doesn't exist in the latest SDK version. Now, fine-tuning can't fix these fundamental model limitations because all fine-tuning really does is adjust the model's weights using domain-specific data, but it can't fundamentally change how LLMs generate responses. So even with fine-tuning, hallucinations can still occur if the AI hasn't seen certain cases before. New updates in programming languages and APIs would require constant retraining, which can be impractical at scale. And then fine-tuned models still lack dynamic retrieval mechanisms. So they rely on static training data, not live code repositories. So what fine-tuning really gets you is better pattern matching, but not real-time validation. So now this is also from a study from the University of Singapore, but it's natural to think that larger models, model ensembles, and more training data, so more LLM, it's natural to think that hallucination will disappear as you add those things on. But no matter how many layers of training data are added into the model, or how many models you use in a model ensemble, the model ensemble is still essentially in function as single LLM. These methods will only reduce hallucination, but cannot eliminate them. Now, what if you do prompting with chain of thought and reflections and verification? So what happens here is that complex problems often have multiple solutions with varying degrees of complexity. And simple prompting-based approaches are effective in mitigating hallucination by guiding the AI system towards solutions more preferred by humans, which are possibly the ones with lower complexities and within the LLM's capabilities. But what's important to note is this type of approach really only works for specific tasks. And it's not possible, again, to get that consistent, trustable quality by just changing the prompts and hoping that the LLM can automatically mitigate it. Now, what actually seems to be the solution here is retrieval augmented generation through external real-time knowledge enhancement, as well as guardrails and fences. So to truly minimize this and to get code quality that's consistent and dependable and have AI agents that you can actually trust, you got to have an AI software development platform that goes beyond just fine tuning, although there is a case for fine tuning, which I'll cover later, and has a context engine that can ground AI responses in real-time context-aware data. So how this really actually helps and why it's broadly effective is that in retrieval augmented generation, we retrieve actual project-specific functions, libraries, and documentation before generating the code. This ensures accurate, up-to-date suggestions that reference your enterprise code base, and it reduces the risk of security vulnerabilities, fake made-up packages, and prevents technical debt by filtering the AI's thinking through retrieved context instead of purely relying on the model's memory. So without external aids like guardrails, fences, knowledge base, and human control, AI agents cannot be trusted blindly, and sophisticated context retrieval and augmentation is the solution. So in order to have true agentic AI for software development that's appropriate for mature enterprise engineering teams, what needs to happen is that the AI needs to leverage deep organizational insights. And this is just a fun little diagram of that. today. But what we're working on building is an AI that is as reliable as your employee of the month, and thus actually augments your developers, but can never replace them. I don't think AI can replace developers, and I think anyone that says that is doing both developers a disservice as well as doing our entire industry a disservice. But I digress. That's an entire rant that you'll probably see me do on a podcast at some point. So, in order for enterprises to see value from deploying and using agentic AI, both engineers and engineering leaders need to be able to trust that the AI system is built on understanding and that it is built to give them control. Now, we're able to trust the work done by development teams because we trust their judgment through the chain of command. And we don't understand the judgment of AI systems, though. They're black boxes. So, how can any developer or engineering leader actually trust the work done by AI agents? Well, you can trust it if you have powerful tools that help you control what the AI does and that establish trust in its generated code artifacts. So that begins with having a comprehensive understanding of a company's knowledge and corporate standards built into the AI. So training on your existing code and projects, connecting into your key docs and recs, knowing all your available APIs and tools, having real-time access to monitor it, and having an AI system that's aware of permissions and access rights set on an organizational level to govern the access and behavior of the tools. Now, the second thing that you have to have is absolute control over the AI scope, behavior, and decisions as it works. So any agentic system has to be fully human in the loop. It has to be able to, you have to be able to clearly define and express boundaries for it to work within. Excuse me. Take a sip of water here. You have to know that the AI strictly adheres to your guidelines and asks for permissions when it needs them. And you want AI to assist you with inspecting its own work and assessing its security, performance, and compliance with your policies. So that's what we're focused on delivering to you today, which is Tabnine, the AI software development platform tailored to you. We're personalized, private, and protected. And we're delivering the future of agentic AI for software development tailored to the needs of mature enterprise engineering teams. And that starts with what our CTO likes to say as AI that is fully onboarded into the enterprise. So you have agents, and we're slowly building more and more autonomy onto them. But we're first focusing on deeply integrating them into your SDLC workflows. We're establishing a foundation of trust and control. So all our systems are going to be human controlled with validation and full transparency into the thinking, behavior, and logic. Our context engine is building in full organizational awareness. So our AI agents will have a comprehensive understanding of all your relevant enterprise data and systems. And of course, all of this is packaged into an enterprise-grade platform that is safe and secure with flexible deployment options that meet your unique and specific privacy and protection needs and still integrate with all of your existing tools. You're not going to have to change out of your preferred IDE, codebase, documentation systems, so on and so forth in order to make use of Tabnine. And then, of course, I know I've been disparaging LLM models so far. Excuse me, that was redundant. I've been disparaging LLMs. However, the truth is that without LLMs, all this technology wouldn't even be possible. And that's why our platform is built with model flexibility in mind, so that as LLM model performance continues to improve, you can make use of the best current and future models by plugging them in. So here is a high-level overview of the platform itself and how we have a deep understanding of your org and work within your existing tools. Now, this is a architecture slide, so not everything on here is available today, but I'll tell you exactly what is and what isn't. So starting with the IDE integrations, Tabnine supports all your most common IDEs, most popular IDEs used today. In the pull request integrations, we currently support GitHub PRs with others coming soon. On the agent side, we have built a full set of generation agents across the SDLC. These are all available today. We also have validation agents. The code review agent takes care of security and performance. We have a bug fixing agent. Then, of course, our provenance and attribution capability with censorship takes care of compliance. Now, what's really interesting is the Tabnine Enterprise Context Engine, which delivers fine-grained personalization and control at a project and team level. It's built of two layers, a control layer and an insight layer. So the control layer is really important to your engineering leaders. So That's where you can set standards and practices to govern the code quality, performance, security, architecture, maintainability, readability, correctness of your AI generated code, and it adheres to those standards. You can set your policies for license compliance, for example, and it will adhere to those. And then, of course, you can set access permissions that govern which developers can use which models, as well as what teams and AI agents can access what parts of your code bases and repositories that you're connecting into. Now, in the insight layer, that's really what's fascinating and useful for the developer. Again, you can connect Tabnine into your requirements and knowledge base. We support Jira today, and then Confluence is on roadmap and coming soon. We have code base awareness. So at an org level, you can connect an unlimited number of repositories into the platform. On a developer level, you can select specific repositories for Tabnine to consider context from as you're querying it. And then monitoring is on roadmap, but that will be coming soon. Now, of course, the foundation of all of this as well is plugging into and leveraging the best available models. So 2 angles to do that today. We have proprietary models that we can offer you if you need those. And then we have the option of customized models. So we can fine tune a small language model for you that's trained on your specific code base that is entirely private to you. The other angle to customized models is you can go and fine tune and create your own models yourself and plug those into Tabnine and leverage those with our context engine and agents. And then, of course, you can use any popular third-party model you like from any sort of deployment of that model that you want to do. And that includes your private API endpoints, deploying into your cloud, even installing it directly on-prem in your own environment. And however you choose to deploy, it's fully self-contained. And third-party context integrations are continuing to grow. We have GitLab support already. We're integrating deeply into Atlassian. Monday is on roadmap and coming soon, and you'll see additional integrations built out over time. So I'll go ahead, Chris.
Oh, just a couple good ones that I think would be if we have a point here that we could stop and answer here.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think this one from Stefan would be a good one to start with.
Awesome. Stefan, how do you ensure that our data internal property information stays internal? This is a big concern for my higher ups, and I'm struggling to ensure our data is protected. Excellent question. Actually, why don't I skip forward to that particular slide while I answer that? So, okay. All right. So, Stefan, the AI software development platform can be deployed fully on-prem, and you can also deploy it entirely inside of a virtual private cloud. Now, when you do that, it's a fully self-contained unit. So along with the platform, any LLM that you use is deployed in that same environment. Tabnine's installed as a Kubernetes cluster, and nothing ever leaves your own environment or system. So there is no possibility of IP leakage when you do that. Of course, a VPC deployment is completely private, as stated by the cloud providers. But for the utmost in privacy protection and security, the on-prem deployment is the option that you'll want to do. So everything the context engine is doing, all of our agents, everything I've described to you so far is all contained within that environment. So no data ever leaves your own infrastructure. So everything's always protected. Now, of course, if you wanted to do a SaaS deployment, we can offer that as well. With our SaaS deployment, we also keep your data completely private. We use ephemeral processing. None of your data is stored. It's not shared. It's not used to train. And all the personalization and context-aware enhancements we do are fully private to your instance of Tabnine and not propagated or shared or used to improve our system broadly. Cool. I'm going to pull up the next question, Chris. I'll go back to my...
Yeah, I think this is the next one that we can talk about. You know, will Tabnine help for making code with GDPR guidelines or to follow GDPR guidelines?
Yeah, great question there, Rinku Singh. So Tabnine's platform is fully compliant with all data privacy regulations, including GDPR. If you have specific GDPR guidelines that you want the AI system to adhere to in code generation, it's as easy as including them into your rules engine for our code review agent. And that'll ensure that all of your code is compliant with those policies. Go ahead and give me the next question here.
I believe that is it so far. I've been fielding them in the comments as they come in. Some good discussion as well from David and Francisco.
Yeah, how to start from beginning. Yeah, look, right now we're live, so you can't do that. But as soon as we stop streaming at 8:30 today, you will be able, actually a couple minutes before 8:30, because Chris and I have a meeting we have to go to where we're doing a private demo of Tabnine, which we can do for you on request as well. You'll be able to access the recording here and start from the beginning, and it'll also be published on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it there. From Boris, are you planning on building your own code editor? We are not planning on doing that. From David, computers are going to replace software devs has been a thing for as long as there have been software devs. Thank you for saying that, David. I agree. It's never going to happen. There is no neural network that could capture the essence of a developer and the ingenuity of a developer. So I fully agree with you. Eric, can you please post all your reference links to studies somewhere I can copy it? Certainly happy to do so. And a great way to stay abreast of those is the articles that I write on our Tabnine blog. But we're happy to email you the links to these studies afterwards. Let us see here. David, beginning. Learning code to get running. Do things I already know how to do faster if you don't have a strong. Yep. So sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I think this is a spicy topic, right? Because I think there's mixed views. There's studies that have come out that junior devs who have AI code assistants and then get them taken away, have actually learned the language and have become smarter and much more intelligent and confident in coding in that language, thus more productive and efficient. At the same side, I know there's folks who talk about the literacy of developers who exclusively use AI code assistants maybe prior to learning the fundamentals. So I think it is a interesting topic. I've enjoyed seeing you both, Francisco and David, go back in the comments. Good discussion.
Yeah, it's fantastic. There's a really good study from McKinsey actually that came out that looked into this, and what they did was they gave a control group, junior devs, no AI. They gave a experimental group access to AI. They had them work on things. Then they removed the AI access from the experimental group and had them work on some more things. And they found that the group that was using AI actually improved their ability to code even when the tool was taken away afterwards. So, and really the important thing here to know is that was a fully human in the loop interaction. So, and as you'll see when Chris demos Tabnine, it explains everything it's doing. So you're actually learning to code along with using the system. And what's actually kind of fascinating that I can share personally is, let me hide your current comment so you're not talking to a disembodied voice on the screen. What's fascinating actually for me personally is I'm a marketer, right? I'm head of marketing programs, and my extent of software development experience was 2 years in early 2015 when I was doing web development inside of Cisco IT. And all I was doing there was making their internal web applications mobile responsive using Bootstrap.js. So from there to now, using Tabnine over the last year or so that I've been with the company, I've actually built a couple of applications myself with a front end, back end, and a microservice. And I'm just learning a ton about software development along the way. So it can definitely be a great way to learn. So that concern that you shared, I hope I can help alleviate that to some extent.
And Amaya's not building hello world apps either. I mean, they're stock portfolio apps, complex applications. So it's truly a testament of what you can do with an AI code assistant.
Yeah.
Let's see here. There was two more. That one that seems to be getting a lot of, yeah, there we go. Is it possible to connect multiple projects with each other for the AI agents to understand and work between them? As an example, a server C# project and a C++ client project, where both are massive projects on their own. You can actually connect as many repositories as you would like into Tabnine, and then you can ask your agent or your Tabnine chat when you're working in your IDE questions on both. You can use both as context and help use both repositories to help guide and shape the decisions and what you generate and what you do next.
Yeah, yeah, and Chris will show you some of that in action in our demo. And really, what's a good mental model for thinking about this is when you're using Tabnine, it's meant to augment your workflow at every step of the way. So how I would recommend doing what you've described is start with the server C# project, start building, and start calling the C++ client project as you're building components that need to integrate and use and connect with components inside the C++ project. So it'll help you, and it'll help contextualize it along the way. Any thoughts on whether Tabnine works better with strongly typed languages or loosely typed, and if certain LLMs do better with strongly typed languages? So Tabnine supports 600 languages, libraries, and frameworks. The LLMs themselves have massive amounts of language support built into them. And then, as I'll show you with our context deep dive, I'm unfortunately going a bit longer on my talk track than I expected to, but I love the questions. You'll get a better understanding of that. And another question from David. Go ahead, Chris.
I will just say that at Tabnine, so as the Maya said, we support a bunch. Any framework or language I would imagine you're using, we have support for. You look at loosely typed languages, JavaScript, PHP, very, very good support. You look at you look at strongly typed languages like Java or C#, right, where it requires variables to be explicitly defined with a specific data type. Also, very, very, very well supported. You can find all of that information in our documentation that goes over the supported languages. Obviously, if it's going to say JavaScript, that'll encompass, React and Angular and so on and so forth. But great support for both sides of the house there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really the LLMs alone are going to have great support out the box for understanding it, and then our context engine is really what's facilitating that precision, no matter what language that you're using. So, question for David: is there any quantitative analysis on what language features play better with LLM-based tooling? There is. I've started diving into some of it. I'm not quite prepared to speak to it or reference it today, but just stay tuned, subscribe to our blog and newsletter, and you'll see when I publish articles about it. Okay, I'm going to try and breeze through this because I know you guys all came here for the demo, and I've been talking for 40 minutes, so bear with me for about 10 more. I'm going to try to rapidly move through my slides so Chris can show you all the cool stuff he's got planned for our demo portion today. All right, so I'm going to skip through this, but we have AI agents that are human in the loop and contextually aware for every step of the SDLC, all the way from planning to creating documentation, generating comprehensive test plans, doing code review, and then helping with code maintenance. And of course, I'm not the only one tooting our own horn here. We've been recognized by leading analyst firms, including Gartner, who top ranked us against all 12 providers in the space in the most recent critical capabilities report for AI code assistance in 2024. Ranked first for the 3 use cases you see there, and ranked a very, very close second for the other 2. Now, of course, we've been recognized by Everest Group and OMDIA as well. And recently, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll know yesterday I posted that we were honored to receive the Tech Innovation Award from SiliconANGLE and theCUBE this year for the greatest innovation in AI usage for software development for engineers. So let's dive into our context engine insights layer. So how the engine works is it increases the quality of AI recommendations through progressive personalization. So of course, you've got your IDE context awareness, you've got your connection into your code bases, your requirements, and your documentation. You've got coaching, that's your model guardrails and rules. And then you've got customization that you can access through fine tuning. So the core of this is retrieval augmented generation. And here's kind of a fun stick figure diagram of how that looks in action. So here is your smiley face developer. How do I build a REST client to call the Acme services layer? That's not going directly to the LLM. If it went directly to the LLM, you'd get an open source answer on it, which is helpful for learning, but not so helpful for actually executing your tasks. That query is going to our retrieval system. It's getting enhanced with context, being completely rewritten, and then sent to the LLM. And then there's some additional work we're doing even prior to the response coming back to you that makes it contextually aware. And this was really extending the capabilities and inherent knowledge within the LLM without having to retrain the model. Now, the first way it works, I'll be able to share some details about how our RAG architecture works with you today, but not all of them because this is public, of course. But I'll try and give you a high-level overview here. And if you have in-depth questions, I'll try and answer them if I can in this setting. But the best way to really dive deeper into that would be to book a demo with our team and do that through the contact us form on our website. But start with semantic memory, right? And that refers to an organized and structured representation of knowledge that allows Tabnine to understand concepts, relationships, and context across different interactions. And unlike a traditional memory format that stores raw data, our semantic memory is really building a conceptual map of your enterprise domain. So for example, Tabnine might learn through semantic memory that when you say authentication, that typically involves OAuth, JWT, or session tokens, and then it will suggest contextually relevant solutions rather than random snippets. And this also helps improve continuity as you're working with it. Now, the next angle is vector memory, and that's where it stores and retrieves information using numerical embeddings, vector representations. And that's instead of raw text or structured rules. And this allows Tabnine to find similar concepts quickly, even if your phrasing or structure of the query differs. And what this diagram documents in this case means comprises of like code files, classes, modules, etc. You can, of course, allow Tabnine to obtain these documents both from the user's local workspace or from selected repositories or both. And the reason you're going to want to expose your Git repos to Tabnine is there's a number of reasons, right? So if you have a highly curated collection of best practices and proven code, you want to expose safe accredited patterns for solving domain-specific problems. You want to make your code more discoverable for knowledge sharing, right? That's really helpful for large distributed teams and also really helps new team members. And if you want to encourage code reuse as much as possible, which of course you do because you don't want developers reinventing the wheel over and over again. So how it really works is it converts those snippets, docs, and knowledge bases into embeddings. Then it's using vector similarity search to retrieve the most relevant data. This is really fast, scalable, and efficient for large-scale knowledge retrieval. So an example of this in action might be that you have a query that includes something like encrypting passwords, and then the AI is retrieving relevant functions, even if the query itself doesn't exactly match stored data. And then when it generates, it's actually suggesting enterprise-specific encryption methods instead of generic implementations. Important thing here, though, is that you have to ensure that your data is of high quality. So what you get is only as good as what you put into it. Put garbage in, get garbage out. So that's why we've put that control over selecting context sources for each query into the hands of each developer with our context scoping feature, which Chris will show you to help you do that. Now, the next layer of sophistication here is called graph-based retrieval augmented generation that builds upon semantic and vector retrieval. And what it's doing is it's structuring knowledge as a graph. So it's mapping the relationship between entities, so functions, APIs, modules, docs, etc. Those are all being explicitly stored and leveraged for better retrieval. And AI is traversing the graph. So it's retrieving not just related code, but interdependent logic flows. So it's going to create nodes and connect edges there at a high level. But an example of this in action, you have a request for something like an API request handler, and a graph traversal would retrieve related auth functions, rate limiting logic, and logging utilities that will create a complete and contextually aware code suggestion. So that's really building into Tabnine an understanding of how different modules are interacting to provide a structured response. Now, this is the part that I can't really tell you much about, but agentic RAG adds a task-specific element into the mix, and it's building on our existing RAG architecture, semantic vector, and graph edges to further enhance knowledge retrieval, reasoning, validation, and contextualization prior to generation. And in practice, when you're interacting with Tabnine, we're using a sophisticated RAG architecture that we've built into our context engine through the insight and the control layer. So your query at Tabnine, say, generate a secure API request handler. That query goes to our context engine where we intelligently select the right context for the task at hand from the sources available to us and any clues you've given Tabnine, perhaps with context scoping and the use of app mentions, which Chris will show you. That's enhanced and rewritten. And then it generates a response that's highly contextually relevant. And the results really speak for themselves. So when engineers see code suggestions that actually match their patterns and standards, your acceptance rates are going to go way up. And really, it's the difference between getting advice from someone you just hired off the street versus someone that's writing code at your company and team for years. And remember, for our security conscious friends in the room, all of this happens with complete privacy. So 82% improvement in chat consumption rate with context and 35% improvement in consumption for our code completions. Now, moving on to our control layer, this is where you can accelerate your SDLC without scaling tech debt and security vulnerabilities. So in addition to the implicit guidance Tabnine's getting from context and connection, you can also provide explicit guidance to control how it behaves. So what you can do with Tabnine today is codify your institutional knowledge. So accepted standards for software development, unique best practices, corporate policies, and turn those into rules. Apply them in code review at the pull request or in the IDE, as it will demo for you today. You provide the parameters you'd like to see your code comply with, and Tabnine will convert this into a set of comprehensive rules. It'll check the code in the PR and IDE against your set of rules when invoked. It'll flag deviations, tell you what went wrong, why it was flagged, and it'll offer a guidance and suggested edit to fix the issues. So that lets you fix the underlying issue with any LLM-based system, which is getting help with validating it against your knowledge base and best practices. Now, this is a high level of how we train the code review rule set. So it comes with thousands of built-in rules. You can also have us automatically learn rules for you. So we'll go and look at various rule sources and extract that. You can also add in your own human expert rules, and then API vendor rules are coming soon. So that all filters into your organizational rule set, which is viewable through the admin panel, which Chris will show you. That gets intaked into our context engine and then activated through the code review agent. Now, you also get to govern model usage and data privacy. So, choose whatever LLMs you want to use and deploy them however you want to use them. You can access them through multiple sources. So it's complete architectural freedom for your usage of models, which also includes models that you decide to fine tune on your own. So with us, you're always in complete control of your AI infrastructure. You can change the model at any time. And then, of course, as you're seeing from the drop down here, whatever models you make available to whatever developers will be accessible to them inside the chat to use to their liking. Now, the question remains, how do you make effective use of model fine-tuning? So LLMs are only trained on publicly available data, and you might have seen some studies showing that that data is going to run out in 2028 or in other cases in 2030. That is what it is. But regardless, we find that LLMs sometimes lack support for specialized languages that are poorly documented in open source. So think about things like Verilog, VHDL, Assembly, and Cobalt. And what you can do with that is you can fine tune an open source LLM yourself, build one yourself, tune it on your code base, and plug that into Tabnine's platform, or you can have us Tabnine to fine tune a private SLM for code completions. And we've done this already for semiconductor manufacturing companies, government, aerospace defense companies as well. And it's quite effective. Now, this is a slide I was showing you earlier, but there's that architectural freedom in action, right? So use any models you like, connect them into our model agnostic AI software development platform, deploy it in the manner that is most appropriate for you and your privacy, and then leverage our context engine and human in the loop AI agents for every step of the SDLC to embed AI into your engineering workflows. So shortening the time from innovation to business impact, while altogether keeping you completely private, secure, and protected. So thanks for bearing with me there. I think I went about 2 minutes longer than I said I would on that. Let's hand it off to Chris and show you what you can do with Tabnine. Oh, questions. Let me ask. Okay.
Couple questions and one stellar comment. If anyone else feels like sharing their great thoughts about Amaya and myself, we greatly appreciate it from Kumar. You guys rock hard at Tab9. Cannot stop telling everyone how great Tab9 is. Do not give fake compliments ever, not even to my children. So
Thank you.
we appreciate that, man. Thank you.
We're in the Tab9 Tabtalica shirt here. Come see us at NVIDIA GTC. You'll be able to pick up a print for yourself, Kumar. But love that. Kumar, again, I am trying to steer my larger engineering team to use Tabnine actively. Reach out to us. We'll help you with that. Eric, what if I'm not super proud of the quality of my current code base while sharing it, recreate past mistakes? Well, a lot of our customers use Tabnine to solve their challenges with technical debt and maintainability. So use it to fix that and get your code base to a place where you are proud of it. And along the way, you're going to be in control the whole way. You're the one directing the agents. You're the one that they're designed to augment. So of course, you can use it to fix past mistakes. And then of course you can use our generation and then validation flow to mitigate any issues that you run into. Offered out suggest ways to avoid copy pasting. Yep. Hey, I always love to see Tab9 users educating other folks inside of our office hours comments. So thank you for that, Kumar. That is a fantastic approach. Yep, that is what base inference and graph RAG is doing for us. David, is vector memory directly available to end users? Dynamic code documentation. Ooh, yeah, this is cool. This is very cool. So Chris actually has a custom command that he's built that leverages vector memory for updating documentation, and it's project specific and shareable. So I think you're going to get a kick out of that, David. Eric, if I have to go through the whole code base and note what I should have done instead, I could have just changed it directly. I want to avoid having to go back through everything. Yeah, just good point. Good question. You're not going to have to go back and tell Tab9 what needs to be changed with your entire code base every time you're working with it. Solve your technical debt issues, and the vector memory space and RAG and context is updated periodically, so it'll continue to refine as you work with it. Constantine, is there a future where suggested code will be unit tested by the AI prior to suggesting the code, or that it just runs the code to make sure that the suggestion is at a minimum valid and runnable? This would improve hallucinations, wouldn't it? This would improve hallucinations. So the way you could do that today is generate code with Tab9, put it in your file, then run our testing agent to generate a testing plan for the code, run the tests, and then you can use our terminal context to make sure that it is valid and executing well, and as well as do any sort of test-driven development, if you will, to get the code to a place where it passes your desired tests. So in a human-in-loop fashion, you can absolutely execute that workflow with Tab9 today. Heish, what model denotes here? Apologies, not sure what slide you were looking at there, but you can use Tab9 with any model you like and any set of models you like. What is the need of this chat for queries? If you're talking about the chat and StreamYard questions we're answering to you today, I assume that's not what you're asking about. The need of AI chat. Chris will show you, but our AI chat is one of the sources of context that we use. So it's a great way to converse and build and execute and work with Tab9. So fantastic engagement and questions here from everyone. Thank you so much. Chris, handing it off to you for demo.
Yeah.
How long is this stream? Yep, we're going for until 8:29. So we've got about another 30 minutes together. So we are going to show you how to use this.
Oh, okie dokie. All right, let me move some tabs around here. Okie dokie. All right, so for starters, you'll notice that my Tabnine, I'm in Visual Studio Code. Let's ground ourselves there. Once you have Tabnine installed, you'll see it on your left-hand side. I have chosen to move it over to the right-hand side. Just makes it a lot easier for me, personal preference. So let's start by going over the enterprise context engine, right? So we're going to show how Tabnine gives engineering leaders the control and governance they need while providing devs with the AI assistants they'll actually want to use, right? And I think leaders, as May has often or has alluded to, leaders often worry that AI is going to introduce security vulnerabilities, generate non-compliant code, and create tech debt. And Tabnine solves all of these problems with a comprehensive set of controls that don't sacrifice developer productivity. So let's start with Tabnine's unique approach to standards and practices, right? Unlike generic AI tools that produce textbook answers with no understanding of your organization's coding standards, Tabnine can be configured to follow your exact requirements, right? So let's start by going over to the rules interface here. So we talked about coaching prior, right? Here is the sort of coaching backend coaching rules interface. You can see we have a list of or a set of predefined rules based on software development best practices, right? But what makes Tabnine special is how easily you can customize these rules to match or to match your organization's standards and best practices, right? It's as easy as once they are in here, if they're already rules that are already preloaded, it's as simple as you can customize good and bad examples. You can customize severity, even change rule ID, right? You can also add new rules by either importing rules here, which will allow you to put a simple, JSON file, and it can be just this description, and Tabnine will ingest and create the rest. And it's also something to call out here. This isn't your grandfather's linter, right? This is not a basic linting check. These are sophisticated guidelines that understand context, right? So for example, you could have a security rule that doesn't just flag missing input validation. It understands how your team specifically handles validation patterns across your code base, right? So as I said, you can filter by language, severity, and other attributes, right? And engineering leaders can determine which rules are public, which rules are on by default, and which rules are enabled for specific teams or projects. So like we said, unlike traditional static analysis tools that require a very complex configuration, Tabnine, you can simply describe your rule in plain language, and Tabnine will ingest and create the rest. Additionally, you can also, as we talked about here in the comments, you can point Tabnine to a golden repo, right? Or send us your rules in a simple Excel file spreadsheet, right? So let's move then back into the IDE. And on that same topic of security and concerns from the top down, we have IP and compliance and copyright issues, right? So if we ask, we're in this Java application here, and I want to say, how can I implement zero auth in this application? Now, what it's going to do here, because I believe this is a Spring Boot. So, okay, let me see here. So something cool we have in Tabnine is our provenance and attribution system. Now, this is Spring Boot. This is a huge project. So there's going to be a gazillion licenses attached to this. But When a developer gets a suggestion, the way provenance and attribution works is Tabnine is automatically going to check it against publicly visible code repositories. And if there is a match, the system flags it and sends references the sources along with its license, or the licenses that are attached, right? So you can see here with this is a long laundry list, but again, this is Spring, so it's a huge application. You get an understanding of all the licenses and where they're coming from and what's attached to the suggested code, the implications of actually using this code. And that's for any suggestion that Tabnine produces, right? It will flag it and provide that attribution if there is publicly matching code. And we've taken this a step further, right? Soon you're going to be able to set organizational governance for AI policies directly through the admin console, right? You can determine which license types your organization considers compliant and suppress the ones that are not compliant entirely, right? So for teams with the strictest requirements, you can even implement complete censorship of generated code that might have any licensing concerns. And then even more so for audit purposes, down the road, you'll be able to generate downloadable reports showing every piece of code that was flagged during development. So unlike other AI coding tools that leave compliance as an afterthought, Tabnine builds protection right into the workflow. So your legal team will thank you, and your developers will not have to worry about accidentally introducing IP issues. So we're going to move back over actually to the admin console here, and we're going to talk about permissions and governance, right? We can look at how Tabnine lets you control who has access to what, right?
Hey, Chris,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hop in. So I ran way over than I intended to on my portion of this, and I want to make sure you have the time to demo the context aware thing. So why don't you just click into the context enhancement view? I'll run the folks through it quickly, and the admin. Yeah, go ahead, click in there. Perfect. Cool. So this is where you decide what repositories you connect into, decide whether or not you want to enable connection to Jira, through what mechanism, and then whether or not you want to turn on workspace indexing. This is also where you'll be able to govern your model usage. And then connecting repos is really easy. It's a SSH key. Alrighty, let's swing on back over to the IDE and let's do your rockstar context demo.
Yeah. So we talk about, let's start with the data points that Tabnine uses to understand your local context, right? This isn't just about what file you're editing. It's a comprehensive awareness of your whole development environment, right? So Tabnine's going to consider current files, your open files, your current selection, imported libraries at the top, compiler errors, runtime logs, project metadata, Git history, even conversation history. Tabnine's going to consider as context, which creates for incredibly rich AI assistance. So one of the things we talked about, I guess, is at references, right? Being able to pull in specific context from your workspace. So let's showcase that here. We have a documentation guidelines standard a markdown file, right? That outlines exactly how my organization should be creating documentation. What we can do here is, let's go to this entropy here and let's select this.
Yeah, with this example, Chris has shown it to you on the code block. Go ahead and type it in, Chris. You could do it for an entire file. So we're just showing it to you on the code block today because Chris already put docs in for the rest of the files in this project. But you can also do multi-step documentation on code, several files with this.
Reference Java documentation guidelines. Perfect. Now what it's going to do is it's going to generate a block of documentation for me, but it's not going to be like your regular blocks of doc, right? Where it might just have the bare minimum. I have explicitly outlined exactly how I want my docs to be generated, right? It's going to have examples, provide version, the whole works. And then it's also going to say, hey, this documentation follows the guidelines provided. It gives you a brief one-line description, includes detailed, so on and so forth, right? And then all I do here is I click apply. And apply is pretty fascinating. Now, I'm currently within this file here, but a cool thing about apply is it doesn't matter where you are, right? I could be in password.java and I'm looking at changes here. Well, geez, I could be in, heck, actually I was in Java documentation guidelines and it just sent me over to password.java, right? So apply is cool because it doesn't matter where your cursor is, doesn't matter what file you're on. It's automatically going to take you to that file, insert that suggestion exactly where it's intended to go without you having to, have a headache of trying to figure out exactly where to place it. And then you have the ability to go in and determine, because it's human in the loop, right? Does this match what I want? Yes. Okay, let's accept that. And now we have generated documentation that's specific to how our organization does it. Now let's move back over to, move over to our fraud detection dashboard. So this is a React application that I've built. What we're going to do here is we can use now images as context. So you'll see here, excuse the ugly color palette, we're going to add a new button here, right? And we're going to do that using our new context engine, being able to use images as context this time around. So we're going to add this screenshot here. What this is saying is there's a new button is the name right there. So we're going to say update the sidebar nav with based on the image provided. You don't even have to specify the update the sidebar nav. Just naturally, I do it, right? So it's going to say, okay, the new sidebar nav should include the following items, right? It's going to understand, it's going to read that picture, and it's going to say, there's one more that I need to add here on that sidebar, and that's a new button. So what we'll do, again, not on the dashboard page, right? But I click apply. It takes us over to sidebar. And now we have a new button here. Perfect. And that's exactly what we want. So, and it doesn't just stop with or start and end with UI and UX changes, right? You can do architectural diagrams. You can bug fix or bug hunt based on screenshots of a component that you're trying to find. But again, pretty remarkable. It can take images and now use them as context to help generate code that also is adhering to your organization's standards, best practices, policies, and rules, right? Now let's go. Let's see here. Let's do codebase connection discovery, continuing to build on that context engine here, right? So let's stay within this dashboard. We're going to start a new conversation because that's always best practice. Think of the chat as your brain. It can only handle so much at one time. So let's do, we're going to determine our scope, right? So this is something that's also part of our context engine, right? The ability for each individual developer to really get specific on their scope to help get the exact answer that they want, right? So we're going to remove workspace, we're going to remove codebase, we're going to remove terminal, and we're going to add a repository. And I'm going to do my little microservices demo here. It has a handful of microservices in it. And first, let's start by saying, because it might have been a while since I've been in this application, tell me everything about this selected, or this, yeah, this selected repository. Huh. Interesting. Okay, let me see something here. And this is a relatively newer feature, so let me just go remote code base repositories and scope. What microservices are used in this? Huh. Well, I just tried to add this before the call. It might not be working exactly, so we're gonna skip over this portion here. But what I can tell you is that, and when we have we have that at work conveniently, it's not working during the demo right now. But you can ask questions like, what microservices do we have for handling financial transactions, right? And Tabnine is going to go into that repository, and it's going to say, okay, we've found X, Y, and Z in our existing services, and it's going to show the code, and it's going to show how they're currently being used in other parts of your organization, and even maybe the specific patterns, right, they're being used in. And this is going to prevent the classic problem of engineers building something that already exists, right? More tech debt. It understands your entire architecture and helps developers leverage what's already built. So let's go back in here to the password generator, and we're going to keep moving forward. But this time we're going to talk about agentic RAD with local, or with a non-code source, right? So Tabnine's agents don't just understand code, they also integrate with project management tools like Jira, right? So earlier this session, we talked about our Jira agent, right? The ability to implement and validate tickets, right? So we've already connected Tabnine to Jira. It's done within the settings area, and it's about 2 clicks. If you've ever integrated anything with the SSO before, it's the same. It takes about 30 seconds. So if we go over to our board here, this is just a dummy board, you'll see 15 tickets. You also see 59 total tickets, right? But when we go back into tab 9 and I look at my Jira drop down here, it's only going to show 8. Why is that? It's only showing the tickets that are assigned to me, my user, that's integrated with Jira and tab 9. And secondly, it's only going to show the tickets that have been active or updated within the last 30 days, right? So we're going to pick this one, MAR296, implement password generation modes for the password Thunderdome. We're just going to hit enter. And what it's going to do is generate an implementation based on the description, based on acceptance criteria. And you'll also see that it knows how I like to write my documentation as well. So while it's also providing this this updated suggestion, it's whether it's aware because it's it's because it's being logged within the context engine, whether it's my chat history, or it's a combination, excuse me, of all of them, right? It being a recently used document, it being recently used within my chat history, all of that helps shape to generate future responses, right? So you'll see here, let's add the new methods to the generator class. We'll do that. Perfect. Awesome. And then we're going to add, oh yeah, we had some broken things there. Then we're going to add this one here to the generator.java. Okay, so we have some red, but that's okay. Nothing we can't fix. But what we can do now is reference that ticket again. And we can say, validate this ticket. Now what it's going to do is it's going to go back and based on my acceptance criteria and my description of what I wanted it to do, it's going to validate this ticket and say if it's correct and if there's any areas that I need to continue to develop to make sure I've fully met those requirements. All right, we have about 14 minutes, so we're looking good here. Additionally, you can come back and you can say, generate unit tests for this ticket. Because, okay, we've implemented it, we've done the implementation, but now I want to make sure that it's correct. It's now going to create a whole set of 5 or a set of tests in JUnit to test out this new functionality that we've just created, which is awesome and really saves a headache. So let's see here. We're going to go back and let's use this actually to generate a test plan. So we already have, let's do a generator.testjava. Let's just create this. All right, perfect. So we have this test plan here now, but I have a boss who really wants full test coverage. So how am I going to do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the test agent located within AI chat next to the chat icon. And we're going to hit generate test plan. And we're working out of the generator.java. So let's go here. We're going to hit continue. We select the code. And if we didn't have a test file, we click don't have one, and it's going to create one for us. But we do have one. So we're going to browse and we're going to go find it. Right. And it is generator test.java. Now, what Tabnine is going to do is it's going to generate a comprehensive test plan with a wide variety of test cases. It's also going to show you here in a short plain English description of what those are. Now, it's also going to realize that I have existing test cases, so it's not going to generate the same ones again. It's going to generate different ones to increase the coverage, right? It just does this naturally. It wants to get you full coverage or as close to 100% test coverage as you can get, right? So you're going to able to go in, you can add whichever ones that you like, right? So it'll generate this test. It'll show it here within the suggestion, and then you can go in and click apply, right? And then now that's just going to add, whoops, that test here. For the sake of this, we'll just throw it in here at the bottom. Now you can also customize these tests, right? So if you wanted to modify the test, you could make changes within this query bar, send it through again, and then apply and add it into your file or your testing file. So let me see here. I know we have 10 minutes left here. Let me look and see. Let's do the last sort of piece here, the agentic RAG within the control layer. Let's talk about the code review agent, right? Because that's something that combines RAG with your organizational standards. So we're going to go in our terminal and, oh, geez, let's see if I have something already in here. All right. Let's X this, and we're just going to type in Tabnine review repository. Okay, so the following files, right? These 7 are
Chris,
sent. That
can you make your terminal window bigger?
Oh, yeah, you bet. Sorry, I got a big screen here, which I often forget is not big for everyone else. Can we see this a little bit better? Or do you want me to zoom in?
If you can zoom in, I'm sure everyone would appreciate it. It is definitely way more visible.
Zoom in. Oh, yeah.
There we go.
All right. So Tabnine review repository. I'm in my IDE. I haven't pushed anything yet. Okay, that's important to acknowledge. Review my repository, right? Okay, we're going to send these files for AI code review. Awesome. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to say Tabnine review report -- last. Oh, sweet. Now I have a full report that's going to say, okay, this one didn't pass, this one didn't pass, and this one didn't pass because there's something that is going against my predefined standards, rules, and guidelines. So when I look through this, it's going to say, okay, here's the file, main, the password.java within the source code, specific line that is in question here. And what's the violation? We'll avoid using for loops for iterating over collections or arrays. Use enhanced for loops or streams instead. And it's a warning. It's not critical, but it's something that I should be aware of. Now here's the to do. And it'll say for each loops and streams in Java, offer more readable and compact ways to iterate over collections and arrays. And then it's going to provide even further a description. And then now here's the suggested revised version. And how many blocks? One block. The operation was to modify, not to delete or remove. And here's the code to insert. And that's the specific rule ID that was in question. So let's say I didn't agree with this, or this was inherently very wrong because of an error that says someone typed something wrong. You can go back and you can change this, but this is something that is now available within the IDE before you do your pull request. It is light years better than a linter, much more sophisticated. And before you even send this to your engineering manager, you can catch the stuff that's going to give them a headache. This is new and really, really powerful for us. So say wrapping up here, we have 7 minutes left. We've shown you today how Tabnine places powerful RAG capabilities directly in the hands of developers, right? As well as be able to provide the guardrails and the trust to engineering leaders that this just isn't another AI coding tool. It's a comprehensive context engine that understands your entire development ecosystem, right? By pulling in from 15 different data points into your workspace, connecting your entire code bases, integrating non-code sources like Jira and images, and applying your organization's standards. Tabnine delivers an AI, software development platform that feels like it's been working on your team for years, not minutes, right? And this level of context awareness is why developers actually adopt and stick with Tabnine. The suggestions are relevant. The code works with your existing systems, and it all happens right where developers already work in their IDE. All right, that's my spiel. I'm done there. If there's any other comments and questions in the remaining few minutes we have, I'm happy to take them here. But thanks for bearing with me while I burn through that. So remove this. I'll add us back up here. Cool. Sweet. Live demos rock. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. All right. If there are no further questions, we can wrap this up with 5 minutes to spare.
Alrighty, thanks everyone for joining us today. We'll be back on doing this again next week at excuse me, Jesus, at 10:30 a.m. PT, and then stay tuned for the next 2 weeks after that of planned Tabnine office hours sessions. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, love the comments. Appreciate the engagement. This was a fun session.
Uh,